I unpacked slowly that first night on the cruise ship, hung my 3 dresses in the narrow closet, the floral one for formal dining, the blue cotton for daytime, the lightweight sweater for evening on deck, set my toiletries on the tiny bathroom counter, arranged my medications in the drawer, each bottle lined up the way I liked. Then I placed the small photo album on the nightstand, pictures of David growing up, Little League uniform, high school graduation, his wedding day. I'd brought it to show the other passengers at dinner. "Look at my son," I'd planned to say. "Look at how he turned out." The cabin was smaller than I'd expected, but the porthole showed endless ocean, dark blue fading to black as the sun set. I could hear the engine humming beneath me, feel the gentle rock of the ship. 7 days at sea. David had been so insistent. "Mom, you deserve this. After everything you've done, you deserve a break. Just relax. Enjoy yourself." He'd handed me the ticket 3 weeks ago, already booked, already paid for. Wouldn't take no for an answer. I'd felt guilty at first. Such an expensive gift. But he'd smiled that smile. The one from when he was 8 years old and brought me dandelions from the yard. "It's my pleasure, Mom. Really." I found the welcome folder on the desk, thick cream-colored paper embossed with the cruise line logo. I opened it looking for the itinerary. Cozumel on day 5, Grand Cayman on day 7. I wanted to plan which excursions to book. The tickets were paper-clipped inside. I pulled them out. Boarding pass, dinner seating assignment, and underneath, my cruise ticket. I read it once, then again. Then a third time, thinking I'd misunderstood. One way only, not round trip, not return flight included, just departure from Miami, 7-day cruise, disembarkation in Cozumel, one way only. I sat down on the narrow bed. The room suddenly felt too small, too far from shore. I picked up my phone, hands not quite steady, checked the ticket again. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe there was a second page. But no, one way. I called David, straight to voicemail. I waited 30 seconds, called again. Voicemail. A third time. Voicemail. I stood up, walked to the porthole. The ocean stretched out forever. We were already miles from land. I could see lights from other ships in the distance, but the coastline had disappeared. I thought about the last conversation I'd had with David 2 days before I left. He'd come to the house, seemed nervous, asked if I'd signed the papers yet. Some forms he'd left, said they were updates to my power of attorney. Just standard stuff, Mom. I'd told him I hadn't had time. He'd looked disappointed. Then Karen called him, and he'd left in a hurry. My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Hope you made it on board okay. Relax and enjoy. You deserve it." I typed back, "Why is the ticket one way?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "What do you mean?" "The cruise ticket. It says one way. Only." The dots took longer this time. "It's probably just how they print them. I'll check with the cruise line. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy your trip." Don't worry about it. I sat back down on the bed, phone in my hand. Something felt wrong. I couldn't name it yet, but I felt it. Like that time I'd left the classroom for lunch and came back to find the window open. Nothing missing, nothing disturbed, but something not right. I scrolled through my phone, found my recent calls. That's when I noticed the voicemail David had left before I'd boarded. I'd been rushing through security, hadn't listened to it. I pressed play. "Hey, Mom." His voice sounded strange, too cheerful, forced. "Just wanted to wish you a great trip. Don't worry about anything at home, okay? Helen's got your spare key. She'll water the plants. Karen and I will handle everything. Just enjoy yourself. Relax. You won't have to worry about the house anymore. You won't have to worry about anything. We've got it all taken care of. Love you. Have fun." I played it again. "You won't have to worry about the house anymore. Not while you're gone. Not for the next week. Just anymore." I looked at the one-way ticket on the bed, looked at my phone, looked out at the dark ocean, and I realized I was 700 miles from home. and I had no idea how I was getting back. Let me back up. My name is Margaret Henderson. I'm 72 years old. I taught second grade at Riverside Elementary for 35 years before I retired. My husband Robert died 5 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden. The kind where you don't get to say goodbye. After that, it was just me in our 3-bedroom ranch house, the one we bought in 1983. 40 years of mortgage payments, finally paid off 10 years ago. I'm not helpless. I want to be clear about that. Every morning at 6:30, I make coffee in the same blue mug Robert bought me 40 years ago. I sit on the back porch, watching the cardinals at the feeder, checking the tomato plants for ripeness. That routine, that predictability, it felt like proof I was managing just fine. I volunteer at the library on Tuesdays, reading stories to children. I'm in a book club that meets every Thursday. I drive myself everywhere. I pay my own bills. I manage my own money. At least I thought I did. David is my only child. I raised him alone after his father and I divorced when David was 3. Over 45 years, I'd given him everything I could. $23,000 for his college, night shifts at the diner every summer, double shifts when I could get them, $15,000 for the down payment on his first house, my savings account completely emptied, $8,000 for his wedding. I took a third job cleaning offices on weekends to save up, $12,000 when his business needed capital, my emergency fund, gone. And I can't even count the hours of free childcare, the times I liquidated part of my teacher's pension early to help with Karen's medical bills, the times I said yes when I should have said no. Total, nearly $68,000 over the years, plus thousands of hours watching Emma and Jake while David and Karen worked. I thought that's what mothers did. I thought I was building his future. David's 45 now. He has a consulting business strategy, something with corporate clients and quarterly reports. I never fully understood it, if I'm honest, but I knew it had been struggling. For 18 months, he'd been losing clients. First the big one, 30% of his revenue, gone to a competitor. Then smaller clients followed, one by one. He told me about it in pieces. Skipped mortgage payments, credit cards maxed out. The worry in his voice when he called. Karen had been laid off from her marketing job 2 years ago, never found another position at the same salary. They had Emma applying to colleges, Jake in private middle school, medical bills from Karen's surgery last year still unpaid. I knew they were drowning. I just didn't know they saw me as the lifeboat. Karen, my daughter-in-law. Married to David for 18 years. 2 kids together. She'd always been concerned about me. That's the word she used. We're just concerned about you, Margaret. That house is a lot for one person. Those stairs, the yard work. You're not getting any younger. She'd say it with a smile, like she was helping. But her eyes would flicker to the kitchen, calculating. I'd see her looking at the cabinets, the appliances, the space, like she was measuring what it would sell for. To be fair to David, I had forgotten that doctor's appointment last fall. Just one. I'd written down the wrong day on my calendar. And yes, I'd left the stove on once after making tea. Caught it myself within 10 minutes. No harm done. But David acted like these were signs of dementia. Karen kept reinforcing it. See? This is what we're worried about. What if you fall on those stairs? What if you leave the stove on and don't catch it next time? They'd convinced themselves I was declining. And maybe part of David actually believed he was protecting me. That's what made it so hard to see clearly. The red flags were there. I just didn't recognize them. 3 months before the cruise, David came over with papers. Just some updates to your power of attorney, Mom. Standard stuff. Your lawyer recommended it. I'd glanced at them. Legal language, dense paragraphs, nothing I understood. I'll look at these later, I'd said. David had pressed. It's really simple. Just sign where I marked. It's for your protection. But something made me hesitate. Let me read them first, I'd said. He'd looked frustrated. Left them on my kitchen table. I'd put them in a drawer and forgotten about them. Then at Christmas, we were all at my house. Karen walked through every room with this look on her face, critical, assessing. "Margaret, don't you think this house is too much for you? The maintenance, the property taxes. You could get something smaller, a nice condo, maybe one of those senior living communities." I'd laughed it off. I'm not ready for that yet. But Karen had persisted. "David and I were talking. We could help you downsize, list this place, find you something more manageable. You'd have equity to spare." The way she said equity to spare, like my money was already theirs. And then there was the call from my financial advisor, Mr. Chen. He'd mentioned it casually during our quarterly meeting, 2 months before the cruise. "By the way, your son called, asking about your accounts. Wanted to know balances, withdrawal procedures. I told him I couldn't discuss your finances without your permission." I'd felt embarrassed. "Oh, David's just trying to help. He worries about me." Mr. Chen had given me a long look. "Mrs. Henderson, you don't need help. Your finances are in excellent shape. But if you ever want to add him to your accounts, come in and we'll do it properly." I'd brushed it off. David was just being protective. Helen, my neighbor 2 houses down, saw things I didn't. Helen's 68, a retired nurse. Her husband died 3 years ago. She'd lost her own mother to a financial scam 5 years back. Some telemarketer convinced her mom to wire $20,000 for a grandchild emergency that never existed. Ever since, Helen's been vigilant. She walks her dog Charlie twice a day, notices everything on our street. She waters my plants when I travel, has my spare key, the one I keep for emergencies, garden club meetings on Wednesdays, coffee at her kitchen table on Sunday mornings. "Margaret," she'd said a month before my cruise, "has David been coming by the house a lot?" I'd nodded. "He's been helpful, checking on things." Helen had frowned. "Just be careful, honey. Adult children and money, it's a dangerous combination sometimes." 6 months before that cruise, David started calling twice a week instead of twice a month. Always the same questions. "How are you feeling, Mom? Any problems with the house? How's your memory? Are you managing okay?" It felt caring at first. Then it felt like a test, like he was waiting for me to fail. The day before I left for the cruise, David and Karen came over. They wanted to discuss my future. David sat at my kitchen table, hands folded. "Mom, we think it's time to have a serious conversation about your living situation, about what happens if something goes wrong." I'd felt my stomach tighten. "Nothing's wrong, I'm fine." Karen had jumped in. "But what if you're not? What if you have a fall? What if your memory gets worse? We just want to make sure you're taken care of." The way she said it, like it was already decided, like I didn't get a vote. That's when David handed me the cruise ticket. "A gift," he said, "a thank you for everything I'd done for him. 7 days at sea, all expenses paid. You deserve a break, Mom. After everything you've sacrificed, just relax. Enjoy yourself. Don't worry about anything at home. We'll take care of everything." I'd hugged him, thanked him, felt guilty for the suspicious thoughts I'd had. I should have known then. But I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe my son had my best interests at heart. The second day at sea, I found the ship's business center, a small room on Deck 7 with 4 computers, a printer, and windows overlooking the ocean. The ship had Wi-Fi, expensive, but I paid for it. I needed to know what was happening at home. First, I called Helen. She picked up on the second ring. "Margaret, how's the cruise?" Her voice was bright, cheerful, normal. "It's fine," I said. "Helen, I need to ask you something. Has there been any activity at my house?" Silence. Too long. "Helen?" "Margaret, honey, I was going to call you, but David said not to worry you, that he'd explained everything." My stomach dropped. "Explained what?" "There's been some activity. A cleaning company came yesterday. They moved furniture out, said they were taking things to storage. David was there supervising, and Margaret..." She paused. "There's a sign in the front yard. For sale." I tried calling David to ask about it, but he said you'd asked him to handle everything while you were gone. He said you were moving to a facility, that you'd decided the house was too much. I sat down in the desk chair. The room tilted slightly with the ship's movement. I never said that. I didn't think so. That's why I'm glad you called. Margaret, what's going on? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. After I hung up, I sat there, breathed, thought. Then I opened my online banking on the computer, logged into my checking account. The balance was wrong, way wrong. I scrolled through the recent transactions, withdrawals, dozens of them. 5,000 here, 3,000 there, 10,000, 8,000, all authorized by someone with access to my account, all within the last 6 months. I added them up twice. $47,000, gone. I checked my savings account. More withdrawals, smaller ones but consistent. $2,000 a month for 6 months, another $12,000. I sat back. My hands were shaking. I folded them in my lap, pressed them together until they steadied. Then I checked my email, scrolled through the messages from the past week, and there it was, an email I'd never seen before, sent to David 3 weeks ago. I clicked on it. Subject line, "Thank you for your inquiry." It was from Sunset Gardens Assisted Living. Dear Mr. Henderson, thank you for inquiring about our memory care facilities for your mother. We have a bed available in our secure wing, which is perfect for patients with wandering tendencies and confusion. Monthly cost is $6,500, all inclusive. We look forward to meeting Margaret and discussing how we can support her transition. Please call to schedule a tour. I read it 3 times. Memory care, wandering tendencies, confusion, secure wing. That meant locked doors. That meant I couldn't leave. That night at the ship's dining room, I sat with 3 other women traveling solo. They talked about their grandchildren, their gardens, their book clubs back home. I smiled, nodded, passed, the bread, laughed at jokes, and the whole time my phone was in my lap under the table, refreshing my bank account, watching the numbers, checking again to make sure I'd read them right. $47,000. My son had taken $47,000. I called David from my cabin after dinner. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mom, how's the cruise? Having fun? David, I need to ask you something. I kept my voice calm, level. Why is there a for sale sign in front of my house? Pause. Who told you that? Helen saw it. David, what's going on? Mom, we talked about this. You agreed. The house is too much for you. You said you wanted something smaller, more manageable. I'm just handling the details while you're enjoying your trip. I never said that. Mom. His voice changed, softer, concerned. Yes, you did. We had a whole conversation about it. Last month, you said you were worried about the stairs, the maintenance. You said you wanted help. David, I don't remember that conversation. I know, Mom. That's exactly what we're worried about. You're forgetting things, important things. That doctor's appointment you missed? The stove you left on? Now this. It's getting worse. My chest tightened. Was I forgetting? Had we had that conversation? I thought back, tried to remember. No. I would remember agreeing to sell my house. I would remember that. David, I'm checking my bank accounts. There are withdrawals, lots of them. Did you take money from my accounts? Another pause, longer this time. Mom, I have access to your accounts for emergencies. We set that up years ago, remember? I've been using it to pay for the house maintenance, the property taxes, things you weren't keeping up with. I've been helping you. $47,000, David. That's not maintenance. I have receipts for everything. The moving company, the storage unit, the real estate fees. I'm handling your affairs because you asked me to, because you can't do it yourself anymore. I never asked you to do this. Mom. His voice was gentle now, patient, like I was a child. This is exactly what the doctor was worried about. This confusion, this paranoia. Maybe this cruise wasn't the best idea. Maybe we should have waited until we'd gotten you settled somewhere safe. My hands were shaking again. I'm not confused. I love you, Mom. We're doing this because we love you. Karen and I, we just want you safe. The assisted living facility we found has excellent care. You'll be so much happier there. I don't want to go to a facility. We can talk about this when you get back. Just enjoy your cruise. Try to relax. I'll take care of everything." He hung up. I stood on deck 10 that evening, watching the sun set over the Atlantic. Families were taking photos, couples holding hands, everyone so happy. And I was 700 miles from home, realizing my son was lying to me. The ocean looked peaceful. I wasn't. The next morning, I met a woman at breakfast. She sat down across from me, asked if the seat was taken. We got to talking. Her name was Mrs. Chen, 75, traveling alone. She'd been an accountant before she retired. We talked about the ports, the ship, the food. Then she said something that made me look up. "My daughter tried something similar 10 years ago, told me I needed to move into assisted living, tried to sell my condo while I was visiting my sister in Seattle, took $40,000 from my retirement account." She stirred her coffee, looked at me directly. I fought back, got a lawyer, got my money back, most of it, set boundaries. We talk now, but only on my terms. Supervised visits, no financial access, ever. I stared at her. "How did you know?" "You have that look, like the ground isn't quite solid anymore, like you're standing on a ship, but it's not just the ocean making things unsteady." She pulled a business card from her purse. "This is my lawyer, elder law. She specializes in this kind of thing. Financial abuse by family members. It's more common than you think, and it's not your fault." I took the card. Sarah Mitchell, attorney at law, elder law specialist. "Trust yourself," Mrs. Chen said. "You know your own mind. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." That afternoon, I was checking my email again in the business center when my phone rang. Mr. Chen, my financial advisor. "Mrs. Henderson, I'm glad I caught you. I tried calling yesterday but couldn't get through. I wanted to let you know. Your son filed paperwork 3 weeks ago claiming emergency power of attorney. He tried to get me to authorize larger withdrawals. I refused without speaking to you directly, but I wanted you to know this happened. He told me I'd set up that access years ago. You did authorize him for emergency access, $500 limit, not $47,000. He's exceeded his authorization significantly. Mrs. Henderson, I need to be clear. What your son is doing, it's called financial exploitation. It's illegal. I have a legal obligation to report this if you don't take action yourself." I closed my eyes. What do I do? Get a lawyer, document everything, stop the withdrawals, and Mrs. Henderson, come home, the sooner the better. I hung up, sat there in the business center. The ship's engine hummed beneath me. I thought about David at 8 years old bringing me dandelions, David at 18, graduation day, hugging me tight, David at 30, holding his newborn daughter saying, "Mom, I want to be the kind of parent you were to me." And now, $47,000. My house listed for sale. A locked memory care facility with my name on a waiting list. That's when the email came through. A forward, sent to me by mistake. The subject line made my blood run cold. Guardianship petition, next steps. I clicked it open and realized this was worse than I'd thought. The email was from David's attorney, James Whitmore, Esquire, sent to David 4 days ago, forwarded to me by mistake when David hit reply all instead of reply. Subject line, guardianship petition, next steps. I read it slowly, every word. David, the petition is ready to file. We have sufficient documentation to demonstrate your mother's incapacity. The one-way cruise ticket establishes a pattern of wandering behavior. She left the state without return arrangements, suggesting confusion about time and planning. Combined with the forgotten doctor's appointment you documented and the stove incident, we have a strong case. The assisted living facility inquiry shows you've researched appropriate care options. I recommend filing the petition next Monday. The hearing will be scheduled within 30 days. Given that your mother will be unreachable at sea for another week, the judge will likely grant temporary guardianship immediately. This allows you to proceed with the house sale and make financial decisions on her behalf. Once the temporary order is in place, the permanent guardianship hearing becomes a formality. Timeline attached. Let me know if you have questions. I sat there in that cabin, 700 miles from shore, and understood. He'd planned this for months. The cruise wasn't a gift, it was evidence. Evidence I was wandering. Evidence I was confused. Evidence I needed to be controlled. The one-way ticket wasn't a mistake. It was proof I didn't know what I was doing. Proof I couldn't manage my own life. He was going to have me declared incompetent while I was on a ship in the middle of the ocean, unable to defend myself, unable to tell a judge I was fine. I took a screenshot of the email, forwarded it to myself at 3 different email addresses, saved it to my phone, printed 2 copies in the business center, put one in my suitcase, one in my purse. Then I sat there, hands on the keyboard, and let myself feel it. Not panic, not rage, just clarity. Cold, clear clarity about what I needed to do. I pulled up my banking records again, went through every transaction from the past 6 months, made a spreadsheet, date, amount, description, $47,000 in unauthorized withdrawals, moving company, $8,000, storage unit rental, $3,000, real estate agent retainer, $5,000, property maintenance, $12,000, medical expenses, $15,000, emergency repairs, $4,000. I had receipts for none of this. I'd authorized none of this. Mr. Chen was right. This wasn't help. This was theft. I searched my email for any correspondence I'd missed, found the text message thread I'd somehow been included on. David to Karen, 6 weeks ago. Mom's starting to slip. She got confused about what day her doctor appointment was. This is our chance. Karen's response, "Are you sure? What if she fights it?" David, "She won't. She's too proud to admit she's declining. And once we have guardianship, it doesn't matter. The house sells in a week if we price it right. That equity covers the facility for 2 years. Easy. Plus, we keep whatever's left." Karen, "What about the mortgage?" David, "Ours. We can save the house if we get access to her money fast enough." Karen, "She's going to be so hurt." David, "She won't remember. That's the whole point." I read it 3 times, took screenshots, forwarded it to myself. Then I just sat there. My son, the boy I'd raised alone, the boy I'd sacrificed everything for. He was betting on me not remembering. He was counting on me being confused. He was planning to use my supposed incompetence to steal my life. That evening, I went up to deck 10 again, needed air, needed to think. A family walked past, grandmother, parents, 2 kids. The little boy was showing his grandma a seashell he'd found. She was smiling, listening, asking questions. I thought, that's what it's supposed to look like. That's what I thought I had. But I didn't have time for grief. Not yet. I had work to do. Back in my cabin, I searched online for property records. Found my house, listed 4 days ago. Asking price, $315,000. Market value was probably $345, maybe $350. They'd priced it to sell fast. The listing agent was someone I'd never heard of. The signature on the listing agreement was mine, except it wasn't. I'd never signed that document. I pulled out my checkbook, compared the signature. Different. Close, but different. He'd forged it. I documented everything. Screenshot, save, forward, print. Then I found the guardianship petition itself. David had filed it yesterday, while I was at sea, unreachable, 700 miles from home. The petition claimed I had significant cognitive decline, memory impairment, inability to manage finances, and wandering behavior indicating lack of judgment. The evidence section listed forgotten doctor appointment, stove incident left on, one-way cruise ticket with no return arrangements despite family attempts to clarify plans, house falling into disrepair due to inability to maintain property, and significant financial confusion requiring family intervention. Every single claim was either exaggerated, taken out of context, or completely fabricated. I accidentally replied all to David's attorney's email. Didn't mean to. I was trying to forward it to myself one more time and hit the wrong button. I received this email. I did not authorize any guardianship petition. I did not agree to any house sale. I am not incompetent. I will be contacting an attorney immediately. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. David. I didn't answer. He called 4 more times. I turned my phone off. I pulled out the business card Mrs. Chen had given me. Sarah Mitchell, attorney at law, elder law specialist. It was 8 p.m. on a Wednesday. I called anyway. Got voicemail. Ms. Mitchell, my name is Margaret Henderson. I'm on a cruise ship in the Caribbean and I just discovered my son has filed a guardianship petition against me without my knowledge. He's selling my house without my permission. He's stolen $47,000 from my accounts. I have documentation. I need help. Please call me back. I left my cell number, my email, called it my emergency. She called back 20 minutes later. Mrs. Henderson, I got your message. Tell me everything. I did. The one-way ticket, the house sale, the withdrawals, the emails, the text messages, the guardianship petition, the assisted living facility, all of it. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then, Mrs. Henderson, this is financial exploitation and fraud. The guardianship petition is particularly concerning because if it's granted, you lose your legal right to make your own decisions. We need to stop this immediately. How fast can you get off that ship? We dock in Cozumel in 2 days. Can you fly home from there? I think so. I'll have to book a flight. Do it. Tonight. I'll file an emergency injunction first thing tomorrow morning to halt the house sale and freeze your accounts. I'll also file a response to the guardianship petition, but I need you in my office within 48 hours to sign documents and give testimony. Can you do that? Yes? Good. Forward me every piece of evidence you have. Every email, every text, every screenshot, every bank statement, everything. I need to see it all. And Mrs. Henderson, do not contact your son. Do not respond to his calls. Do not engage. He's going to panic when he realizes you know. He's going to try to convince you you're confused, that this is all a misunderstanding. Don't listen. Do you understand? I understand. You're going to be okay. I promise you. We're going to stop this, but I need you to trust me and move fast. Can you do that? Yes. Then get off that ship. Come home, and let's fight back. I hung up, sat there on the edge of my cabin bed. The ship rocked gently beneath me. Outside my porthole, the ocean was dark, endless. I thought about David at 8 years old, the bike riding lesson, how many times he'd fallen, how many times I'd picked him up. I've got you, I'd told him. I won't let you fall. Now he was trying to lock me up. Take my house, take my money, take my life. Not anymore. I pulled up the airline website, found a flight from Cozumel to Miami the day after we docked, then Miami to home. 16 hours of travel, 2 connections. Expensive. I didn't care. I booked it. Used the credit card David didn't know about, the one I'd kept in my maiden name from before we were married, the one I'd kept active all these years just in case. Just in case of what I'd never defined. But I had it, and it worked. Confirmation email arrived. Return flight booked. 2 days from now. I called Emma, my granddaughter. Had to be careful. Couldn't tell her everything. Not yet. She answered on the second ring. Grandma, how's the cruise? It's beautiful, honey. How's school? We talked about her AP exam, her college applications, the boys she liked who'd finally asked her to prom, normal grandmother-granddaughter conversation, nothing unusual. But before we hung up, I said, Emma, I love you. You know that, right? I know, Grandma. I love you too. And you can always call me no matter what, even if other people tell you not to. You can always call me directly. Promise me. I promise. Grandma, are you okay? I'm fine, honey. Just wanted you to know. After we hung up, I organized everything. Created a folder on my laptop. Evidence. Put every document, every email, every screenshot, every bank statement in that folder. Backed it up to 3 different cloud services. Emailed the folder to Sarah Mitchell, to Helen, to myself at 4 different email addresses. Then I wrote down everything I could remember. Timeline, dates, conversations, red flags I'd ignored, warning signs I'd missed. Every time David had pushed me to sign something, every time Karen had assessed my house like she was measuring it for sale, every time they'd suggested I was forgetting things, declining, needing help. It was after midnight when I finally stopped. The ship was quiet. Most passengers were asleep. I stood at my cabin porthole and looked out at the dark ocean. 2 days. Then I'd be home. And then I'd fight. That night, I couldn't sleep. The ship rocked gently beneath me, but my mind was racing. I sat at the small desk in my cabin, the photo album open in front of me, the pictures I'd brought to show strangers at dinner. Look at my son. Look at how he turned out. There was David at 8 years old. Summer, 1991. His first bike without training wheels. He'd been so scared. Kept saying he couldn't do it. He'd fall. He'd get hurt. I'd run alongside him, holding the back of his seat. "I've got you," I'd told him. "I won't let you fall." And when he'd finally pedaled on his own, wobbling but moving forward, he'd looked back at me with this huge smile. "Mom, I'm doing it. I'm really doing it." I'd let go, and he'd flown. I stared at that photo for a long time, thought about the moment I'd released my grip, the moment he'd learned he could balance on his own, the moment I'd taught him he didn't need me holding on anymore, and now he thought he needed to hold on to me, control me, manage me, make my decisions because I couldn't be trusted to make them myself. Except he wasn't trying to teach me anything. He was trying to take everything. I closed the photo album, set it aside. On the desk next to it was my purse. I opened it, looked inside. My house keys. I'd brought them with me on the cruise. Didn't even think about it. Just grabbed my keys the morning I left, put them in my purse out of habit. Helen had my spare key. She could have watered the plants, checked the mail. I didn't need to bring my keys, but I had. Some instinct. Some part of me that knew, even then, that I needed to hold on to what was mine. I picked up the keys, felt their weight in my hand, the house key, the car key, the mailbox key, 40 years of my life on that key ring, my home, my independence, my proof that I was still here, still capable, still standing. David wanted to take these keys, lock me in a facility with no way out, sell the house they opened, make me disappear into a system where I'd have no voice, no choice, no power. I thought about the past 5 years, since Robert died, how I'd second-guessed every decision. Is this right? Am I doing this wrong? Should I ask someone for help? I'd been so afraid of being a burden, so afraid of needing too much, so afraid of being one of those elderly parents who drains their children dry with demands and needs and dependence. I'd bent over backward to not be that person, and in doing so, I'd taught David that my boundaries didn't matter, that my money was available, that my decisions could be overridden if he thought he knew better. I'd been so busy trying not to be a burden that I'd made myself a target. But here's what I'd realized. Sitting on that ship with the evidence spread out in front of me, I wasn't declining. I wasn't confused. I wasn't incompetent. I'd forgotten one doctor's appointment in 5 years. I'd left a stove burner on once and caught it within 10 minutes. Those weren't signs of dementia. Those were signs of being human, of being busy, of being 72 years old and occasionally distracted. David and Karen had taken normal, human moments and twisted them into evidence of incompetence. They'd taken my desire to not be a burden and turned it into vulnerability they could exploit. They'd made a mistake, though. They'd assumed I wouldn't fight back. They'd assumed that because I was old, I was weak. Because I was kind, I was stupid. Because I loved my son, I'd let him destroy me. They were wrong. I sat at that desk on the ship 700 miles from home and felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years, since Robert died. Power. Not over anyone else, over my own life, over my choices, over my future. The power to say no, the power to protect myself, the power to fight back. I opened my laptop, created a document, titled it Action Plan. Step 1, get off this ship. I'd already booked the flight. Cozumel to Miami to home. 2 days from now, Sarah Mitchell knew I was coming. That was done. Step 2, meet with attorney, sign emergency injunction paperwork, halt house sale, freeze accounts David had access to, file response to guardianship petition with evidence of his theft and fraud. Let the legal system see exactly what my concerned son had been doing. Step 3, document everything. Keep copies everywhere. Cloud storage, email, flash drives, paper files at Helen's house. Make it impossible for David to claim I was confused or forgetful. Make it impossible for him to erase the evidence. Step 4, secure my assets. Remove David from any account access. Update my power of attorney to name Sarah Mitchell as primary, Helen as backup. Create a living will. Make advance directives. Put legal protections in place so this could never happen again. Step 5, set boundaries. David wanted a relationship with his mother? Then he'd have to earn it back. Therapy, restitution, supervised visits, boundaries so clear they couldn't be crossed. And if he couldn't respect them, then he'd have to live with the consequences. I saved the document, backed it up, sent it to Sarah. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was strategizing, planning, taking control. The ship's entertainment schedule said there was a comedy show tonight in the main theater, dancing on the Lido deck, a midnight buffet. People were having fun, relaxing, enjoying their vacation. And I was in my cabin planning a legal battle against my own son. But here's what I realized. I was exactly where I needed to be, doing exactly what I needed to do. This wasn't the vacation David had planned for me. This was the moment I took my life back. I looked at the photo album one more time. David at 8, learning to ride a bike. I taught him to be independent, to think for himself, to stand on his own 2 feet. Maybe it was time I remembered those lessons myself. The ship docked in Cozumel 2 days later. I didn't go sightseeing. I didn't shop for souvenirs. I got off the ship with my suitcase, my purse, my evidence, and my keys. Took a taxi straight to the airport, checked in for my flight, went through security. David didn't know I was coming, but Sarah Mitchell did. And by the time my plane touched down, the legal wheels would already be turning. Emergency injunction filed, guardianship response submitted, evidence documented and sworn. I sat in the airport terminal, waiting for boarding to start. My phone was still off. I didn't want to hear David's voicemails, didn't want to read his texts, didn't want him to have any opportunity to convince me I was wrong, confused, imagining things. I knew what I'd seen. I knew what he'd done. And I knew what I had to do next. I thought about that voicemail he'd left before I boarded. You won't have to worry about the house anymore. He'd meant it as reassurance, as comfort. You won't have to worry because we'll be handling everything, because you won't have a choice. But I was going to worry about my house, because it was mine, and I was going to handle everything, because I could, and I was going to have choices, because I was taking them back. They called my flight. I picked up my bag, walked to the gate, got on the plane. 7 days ago, I'd boarded a ship with a one-way ticket, unpacked in that tiny cabin, found the photo album on the nightstand, found the ticket in the welcome folder, and started asking questions. Now I was flying home with answers and a plan, and something I hadn't had in 5 years, absolute certainty that I was doing the right thing. David had underestimated me. He'd thought 72 meant helpless, meant confused, meant controllable. He was about to learn differently. I landed at 9 p.m. on a Thursday. Helen picked me up at the airport, drove me straight to my house. The for sale sign was still in the front yard, but it had a red banner across it now, sale pending under legal review. Sarah Mitchell had moved fast. The first thing I did when I got inside was check the garden. My tomatoes were ripe. The roses needed deadheading. The lawn needed mowing. Helen had watered everything, bless her. But I could still do it. Despite what David said, I could still manage this. This was my home, and I was standing in it. The emergency injunction hearing was scheduled for 10 a.m. the next morning, 24 hours after I'd called Sarah from the ship. I barely slept. Kept going over everything in my mind, the evidence, the timeline, what I'd say if the judge asked me questions. Sarah had told me to dress professionally, speak clearly, answer only what was asked. "Don't get emotional," she'd said. "Facts only. Show the judge you're competent, composed, and aware of exactly what's happening." The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Just the judge, a court reporter, Sarah, me, and David's attorney. David wasn't there. Wasn't required for an emergency hearing. The judge was a woman in her 60s, reading glasses perched on her nose, going through the documents Sarah had filed. She looked up at me. "Mrs. Henderson, you're aware your son has filed a guardianship petition claiming you're unable to manage your own affairs?" "Yes, Your Honor. I became aware of it while I was on a cruise my son booked with a one-way ticket without telling me there was no return flight arranged." The judge raised her eyebrows, looked at the ticket copy in the file. "One way?" "Yes, Your Honor. I discovered it the first night. Then I discovered he'd been withdrawing money from my accounts without authorization, $47,000 over 6 months. Then I discovered he'd listed my house for sale with a forged signature. Then I found an email thread between him and his attorney discussing the guardianship petition, filed while I was at sea and unreachable." The judge read for several minutes, looked at the bank statements, the email printouts, the property records. Then she looked at me again. "Mrs. Henderson, do you know what day it is?" "Friday, October 20th, 2023. "Do you know where you are?" "County Courthouse. Emergency hearing for an injunction to halt the sale of my house and freeze accounts my son has access to." "Do you understand the charges your son has made? That you're unable to manage your finances, that you have memory impairment, that you have wandering tendencies?" "I understand the charges, Your Honor. They're false. I forgot one doctor's appointment in 5 years. I left a stove burner on once and caught it myself within 10 minutes. These are the incidents my son is using to claim I'm incompetent. Meanwhile, he's stolen $47,000, forged my signature, and tried to have me declared legally incapable while I was 700 miles from home. The evidence suggests he's the one who shouldn't be managing anyone's affairs." The judge almost smiled. Almost. "Temporary restraining order granted. House sale is halted pending full hearing. All joint accounts are frozen. Mr. David Henderson is prohibited from accessing his mother's financial accounts or entering her property without her permission. Full guardianship hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Mrs. Henderson, I'm appointing a guardian ad litem to investigate this matter independently. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor, thank you." Walking out of that courthouse, I felt something shift. The law was on my side. The system was listening. I wasn't alone in this. But David wasn't done. 2 days later, he showed up at my house. Helen saw him first, called me immediately. "Margaret, David's in your driveway. Should I call the police?" "Yes," I said. "The restraining order says he can't be here without my permission. He doesn't have my permission." The police came within 15 minutes. I watched from my living room window as they spoke to David. He was gesturing, talking fast, pointing at the house. One officer walked up to my door. I opened it. "Ma'am, your son says he's concerned about your welfare, says you're not thinking clearly. He wants to check that you're okay." "Officer, there's a restraining order. He's not allowed to be here. I'm perfectly fine, as you can see. My son is the subject of a financial exploitation investigation. That's why he's here, because he's losing control. I'd like him to leave." The officer nodded, went back to David. 5 minutes later, David's car pulled out of my driveway. But before he left, he looked at the house, at me in the window, and the look on his face wasn't concern. It was desperation. 3 days after that, my phone rang. Karen. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Margaret. Her voice was tight, controlled. We need to talk. We don't, actually. My attorney says I shouldn't be in contact with you or David. Margaret, please. This has gotten out of hand. David made mistakes, yes, but he was trying to help. We're about to lose our house, our marriage, everything. Can we please just talk? Work something out? Maybe we can come to an agreement that doesn't involve lawyers and judges and all this ugliness. Karen, your husband stole $47,000 from me. He tried to have me declared incompetent so he could sell my house and lock me in a memory care facility. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. He was desperate. We were desperate. We still are. If this goes to court, if charges are filed, he could go to jail. Our kids would lose their father. Emma's applying to colleges. Jake's in middle school. Please, can't we just settle this privately? We'll pay you back, every penny. We'll sign anything you want. Just don't destroy our family. I sat down on my couch, looked at the photo of Emma and Jake on my mantle, my grandchildren. Karen, I love those kids, but their father committed fraud. I can't make that go away because you asked nicely. We could do a payment plan. David could sign over his business. We could sell our house, downsize, give you the difference. We'll do whatever it takes. Just please, don't press charges. Don't let this go to trial. Your husband tried to have me locked up, Karen. While I was on a cruise he booked. Do you understand that? He used my love for him as a weapon against me. I know, and I'm sorry. We're both sorry. But sending him to jail won't undo what happened. It'll just hurt more people, our kids, your relationship with them. Please, Margaret, think about Emma and Jake. I closed my eyes. Tell David to have his attorney contact my attorney. If he wants to negotiate, we'll do it through proper channels, with lawyers, with documentation. I'm not having private conversations that can be twisted later. Goodbye, Karen. I hung up, sat there for a long time. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to make it easier, wanted to protect Emma and Jake from the fallout. But another part of me, the part that had woken up on that ship with a one-way ticket, knew better. This wasn't about punishment. This was about protection. If I let them off easy now, what would stop them from trying again in 2 years? 5 years? 10? That night, my blood pressure spiked. I'd been stressed for weeks, but suddenly my chest felt tight. My heart was racing. I couldn't catch my breath. Helen took me to the ER. They ran tests, EKG, blood work, the whole workup. The doctor came in 3 hours later. Mrs. Henderson, you're experiencing acute stress reaction. Your blood pressure is 180/110. That's dangerously high. We're going to keep you overnight for observation and give you medication to bring it down. But you need to reduce your stress levels. What's going on in your life right now? I almost laughed. I'm in the middle of a legal battle with my son. That'll do it. He made notes in my chart. Mrs. Henderson, stress like this, it can cause serious health problems, heart attack, stroke. You need to take care of yourself. Whatever's happening, your health has to come first. I was released the next morning with a prescription for blood pressure medication and instructions to follow up with my regular doctor. Helen drove me home. And that afternoon, Karen called David's attorney, told them about the ER visit, told them I was having health problems because of the stress of the legal case, told them this proved I wasn't capable of managing the situation, told them it was more evidence I needed a guardian. Sarah called me an hour later. They're trying to use your ER visit against you, claiming the stress of managing your affairs is too much. They're going to argue at the hearing that the health scare proves you need someone else to handle things. I'm not having a health crisis because I can't manage. I'm having a health crisis because my son is stealing from me and trying to lock me up. I know, and that's exactly what we're going to tell the judge. But Margaret, I need you to see your doctor. Get a full evaluation. Get a letter stating you're mentally and physically capable. We need documentation that contradicts their claims. I saw my doctor 2 days later. Dr. Patel. I'd been seeing her for 10 years. She took my blood pressure, still elevated but coming down with the medication. She asked me questions about memory, cognition, daily functioning. She had me do some simple tests. Then she sat back and looked at me. "Margaret, you're experiencing situational stress. That's normal given what you're going through. But cognitively, you're sharp. Your memory is excellent. Your judgment is sound. There's no sign of dementia, confusion, or incompetence. You're a 72-year-old woman dealing with a family crisis. That's all this is. I'll write a letter for your attorney." That letter became part of my file. Dr. Patel's professional assessment. Margaret Henderson is fully capable of independent living and financial decision-making. The stress she's experiencing is a normal response to an abnormal situation, specifically financial exploitation by a family member. One by one, my support network stepped up. Mr. Chen, my financial advisor, wrote a statement. Margaret Henderson has managed her finances responsibly for 10 years. She understands her accounts, asks intelligent questions, and makes sound decisions. The withdrawals made by her son were unauthorized and against her expressed wishes. Helen wrote a statement. I've known Margaret Henderson for 8 years. She's organized, capable, and independent. She maintains her home, volunteers regularly, and is active in our community. I've witnessed her son pressuring her to sign documents and making claims about her competence that don't match reality. The book club president, Margaret from down the street, wrote a statement. Margaret Henderson attends our club weekly. She reads complex books, engages in thoughtful discussion, and shows no sign of cognitive decline. She's one of our most reliable members. The social worker assigned as guardian ad litem came to my house, interviewed me for 2 hours, asked about my daily routine, my health, my finances, my relationship with David. She talked to Helen, to Dr. Patel, to Mr. Chen. She reviewed all the evidence. Then she submitted her report. I find no basis for the guardianship petition. Mrs. Henderson is fully competent and capable of independent living. The evidence suggests the petition was filed for financial gain rather than legitimate concern for Mrs. Henderson's welfare. David's business closed 3 weeks into the legal battle. His clients had left. His reputation was damaged. Karen got a full-time job at a retail store, working for $12 an hour. They listed their house. A real listing this time. Their house, not mine. They were drowning, and they'd wanted to use me as the life raft. I felt sad about that. Not guilty, but sad. They'd made choices, bad choices, and now they were living with consequences. Sarah called me on a Tuesday evening, 4 weeks after I'd gotten off that ship. The judge reviewed all the evidence. David's attorney is recommending settlement. They want to avoid trial. Are you willing to mediate? What does that mean? It means we sit in a room. You, me, David, Karen, their attorney, and a neutral mediator. We negotiate terms. If we reach an agreement, it becomes legally binding. If we don't, we go to trial. What kind of terms? That's up to you. Restitution, boundaries, supervised access to grandchildren, financial restrictions, whatever you need to feel safe and protected going forward. I thought about it. Thought about Emma and Jake. Thought about David at 8 years old on that bike. Thought about the house keys in my purse. Thought about everything I'd learned in the past month. Set it up, I said. Let's mediate. 3 days later, Sarah called back. Mediation is scheduled for next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Are you ready? I was ready. I'd been ready since I found that one-way ticket. The mediation took place at Sarah Mitchell's law office. Conference room on the 3rd floor, long mahogany table, windows overlooking downtown, 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I arrived 15 minutes early. Sarah was already there, organizing documents. She'd laid everything out on the table like exhibits in a courtroom. The one-way cruise ticket in a clear plastic sleeve, bank statements highlighted in yellow, email printouts, text message screenshots, property records, the forged signature on the house listing, my real signature on my checkbook, side by side for comparison. It looked like evidence. It was evidence. David and Karen arrived at 9:58. Their attorney, James Whitmore, came with them. David looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His suit hung loose on his shoulders. Karen's eyes were red. She'd been crying. They sat on one side of the table. Sarah and I sat on the other. The mediator, a woman named Patricia Chen, no relation to my financial advisor, sat at the head. David wouldn't look at me. He stared at the table, at the evidence spread out in front of him, the cruise ticket, the bank statements, the emails with his name all over them. Patricia opened the session. We're here to see if we can reach a settlement in the matter of Henderson versus Henderson. This is a confidential mediation. Nothing said here can be used in court if we don't reach an agreement. Everyone understands that? We all nodded. Good. Mrs. Henderson, would you like to make an opening statement? I looked at David. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. I took a breath. Then I spoke. I'm 72 years old. I'm not incompetent. I'm not a burden. I don't need to be saved from my own life. What I need is for my son to return the $47,000 he took from my accounts, withdraw his guardianship petition, and respect my boundaries. I raised him to be independent, to think for himself. I didn't raise him to think for me. David flinched, still didn't look up. Patricia turned to David's attorney. Mr. Whitmore? Whitmore cleared his throat. My client acknowledges that mistakes were made. He was acting out of genuine concern for his mother's welfare. The financial transactions were made with the understanding that he had authorization to manage her affairs. The guardianship petition was filed because he believed, and still believes, that his mother needs assistance with complex decisions. We're here today to find a solution that protects Mrs. Henderson's interests while acknowledging her son's good intentions. Good intentions. I said it quietly. You call stealing $47,000 and trying to lock me in a memory care facility good intentions? David finally looked up. Mom, I wasn't trying to lock you up. I was trying to keep you safe. The house is too big. You're alone there. What if you fall? What if something happens and there's no one there to help you? I have help. I have Helen. I have my doctor. I have friends. I have a support system. What I don't have is permission for you to make decisions for me without asking. But you weren't making good decisions. You forgot that appointment. You left the stove on. Once. I forgot one appointment in 5 years. I left a stove burner on once and caught it myself. Those are normal human mistakes. They're not evidence of incompetence. But what about next time? What if next time you don't catch it? What if next time you just ask me instead of stealing from me? My voice was level, calm, but firm. What if next time you talk to me like an adult instead of treating me like a child who can't be trusted? Karen spoke up. Margaret, we're losing our house. Our business failed. We were desperate. We made bad choices. We know that, but we were trying to survive. By selling my house? By locking me away? Karen, you have a college degree. You could get a job. You could downsize. You could make sacrifices the way I made sacrifices for 45 years. But instead, you decided my savings were the solution to your problems. We didn't think of it that way. Karen was crying now. We thought you'd be happier somewhere with people to take care of you. We thought the house was too much for you. We thought we were helping. While keeping the profit from selling it? Karen looked down. Patricia intervened. Let's focus on solutions. Mrs. Henderson, what would you need to feel secure going forward? I pulled out the folder Sarah and I had prepared. First, David withdraws the guardianship petition immediately. Second, he returns the $47,000. We can set up a payment plan if necessary, but every penny gets returned. Third, I remove him from any financial accounts. He has no access to my money, ever again. Fourth, I update my power of attorney. Sarah Mitchell becomes my primary agent. Helen Martinez becomes my backup. David has no legal authority over my affairs. Mom, I'm not finished. 5th, supervised visitation with Emma and Jake for the next 6 months. Neutral location, scheduled times. After 6 months, we reassess based on your behavior. 6th, you and Karen both enter counseling. You for whatever made you think this was acceptable. Karen for family therapy. 7th, if you violate any of these terms, I press criminal charges for fraud and financial exploitation. The room was silent. David was staring at me like he didn't recognize me. Those are my terms, I said. Take them or leave them. Whitmore started to respond, but Patricia held up her hand. Before we continue, I'd like to hear from the witnesses. Mrs. Henderson, your attorney has arranged for testimony. Sarah nodded. Yes, we have Mr. Chen, Mrs. Henderson's financial advisor, available by video conference, and Mrs. Martinez, her neighbor, is here in person. Mr. Chen appeared on the screen Sarah had set up. He looked professional, composed. I've managed Mrs. Henderson's accounts for 10 years. She's responsible, knowledgeable, and makes sound financial decisions. The withdrawals made by her son were unauthorized. When I questioned them, he claimed emergency authorization, but the amounts far exceeded the $500 limit Mrs. Henderson had set. In my professional opinion, these were not good faith mistakes. These were deliberate acts designed to access funds he knew he wasn't entitled to take. David's face was red. Whitmore was taking notes, but he looked uncomfortable. Helen testified next. She dressed up for this. Navy suit, pearls. I've known Margaret Henderson for 8 years. She's one of the most capable, independent women I know. She gardens, she volunteers, she drives, she manages her home beautifully. I watched her son come by repeatedly in the months before that cruise, and every time he'd leave papers for her to sign. She'd tell me later she was uncomfortable, that she didn't understand what they were, that David was pushing too hard. I told her to be careful. I wish I'd said more. But Margaret doesn't need a guardian. She needs protection from the person trying to become her guardian. Patricia looked at the other statements in the file. We also have written testimony from Dr. Patel, Mrs. Henderson's physician, stating she's cognitively sharp and fully capable, from the guardian ad litem appointed by the court, stating the guardianship petition has no merit, from Mrs. Henderson's book club president, from her library supervisor, from her bank. Everyone who actually knows this woman says the same thing. She's fine. She's competent. She doesn't need a guardian. Patricia turned to David. Mr. Henderson, I've read the evidence. I've heard the testimony. I need to ask you directly. Were you genuinely concerned about your mother's welfare? Or were you trying to access her assets to solve your own financial problems? David's hands were shaking. He looked at Karen, looked at his attorney, looked at the evidence on the table. Then he put his face in his hands. His shoulders started shaking. He was crying. I was scared, he said, voice breaking. I thought we'd lose everything, the house, the business, everything we'd worked for, and Mom's house was just sitting there, all that equity, and she's alone in that big place. I thought we could sell it. She'd be safe somewhere with people to take care of her, and we could use the money to save our house. I thought everyone would win. Everyone but me, I said quietly. I was scared, David said again. I was so scared. And then it spiraled. The guardianship petition seemed like the only way to make it legal, to make it official, so I wouldn't be stealing, I'd be managing. But Mom... He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking about you. I was thinking about us, about losing everything, and I convinced myself it was for your own good. But it wasn't. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Karen was crying too. We were wrong. We're so sorry, Margaret. I sat there looking at my son, the boy I'd raised, the man who'd tried to lock me away, and I felt tired, not victorious, just tired, relieved that it was over, but also sad, because this was my son, and he'd hurt me. And even now, sitting here watching him cry, part of me wanted to comfort him, to say it's okay, we'll figure it out, I forgive you. But another part of me, the part that had woken up on that ship with a one-way ticket, knew better. Forgiveness and safety weren't the same thing. Patricia pulled out a settlement agreement template. Let's go through the terms Mrs. Henderson has proposed. Mr. Henderson, are you willing to withdraw the guardianship petition? David nodded. Yes. Are you willing to return the $47,000? I don't have it. Most of it's gone, but I'll pay it back, however long it takes. I'll sign a promissory note. I'll give you my business, what's left of it. I'll sell our house and give you the difference, whatever you need. Are you willing to accept removal from all financial accounts and update to the power of attorney? Yes. Are you willing to attend counseling and accept supervised visitation with your children for 6 months? David looked at Karen. She nodded. Yes, he said. We'll do whatever Margaret needs us to do. Patricia typed for several minutes. Then she printed out the settlement agreement. 7 pages, all the terms clearly stated. David would repay $47,000 at $1,305 per month for 36 months. If he missed a payment, the full amount became due immediately, and criminal charges could be filed. The guardianship petition would be withdrawn, all joint accounts closed, power of attorney updated, supervised visitation for 6 months, then reassessed. David and Karen both committed to counseling. David for individual therapy, Karen for family sessions, and a no-contact order except for scheduled, supervised visits until further notice. Patricia handed the agreement to me first. I read every word, every clause, every protection. Then I signed. She handed it to David. He read it. Signed. Karen signed as witness. Whitmore signed. Sarah signed. It was done. When the mediator read the terms aloud, $47,000 in restitution, 36 months, no contact except supervised visits, I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired, relieved, like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale, but also sad because I'd won. And that meant my son had lost. And even though he deserved to lose, even though he'd brought this on himself, he was still my son. And part of me would always love that 8-year-old boy who'd learned to ride a bike, even if the man he'd become had tried to lock me up. We stood. David tried to approach me. Sarah stepped between us. The agreement says no contact except supervised visits. David stopped, looked at me. Mom, Goodbye, David, I said. Not angry, not cold, just final. We'll talk when the court says we can. I walked out of that conference room with my attorney, my dignity, and my house keys still in my purse. The settlement agreement was filed with the court that afternoon. The guardianship petition was withdrawn. My house stayed mine, and I walked out of there knowing I'd fought and I'd won. Not against my son, against the idea that being 72 meant I couldn't fight for myself. 3 months after the settlement, I was still in my house, still making coffee in Robert's blue mug at 6:30 every morning, still sitting on the back porch, watching the cardinals, checking the tomatoes. The routine was the same, but it was different now, because it was mine. Nobody could take it. I'd made sure of that. The legal outcomes were straightforward. The guardianship petition was officially withdrawn, dismissed with prejudice, which meant David could never file another one. The house sale was canceled. The property title remained in my name alone. My accounts were closed and reopened with new numbers. David had no access, no emergency authorization, no joint ownership, nothing. The financial recovery was slower. David made his first payment on time, $1,305, then the second payment, then the third. His business had closed completely, but he'd gotten a job, corporate consulting for someone else's firm, making $60,000 a year instead of the 6 figures he'd been chasing. Karen was working full-time at Target, earning $19 an hour. They'd sold their house, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, downsized like I'd suggested they could have done a year ago without stealing from me. The equity from their house sale went partly to me, $10,000 up front. The rest would come monthly for the next 33 months. If he missed a payment, I could file criminal charges. He knew that. So did his attorney. My credit score, which David had damaged by putting my house on the market without permission, was slowly recovering. I'd hired a credit repair service. Cost me $200, but they'd gotten the property listing flagged as fraudulent, removed the inquiry from my report, and helped me dispute the damage. It would take time, but I had time. Helen and I met for coffee every Thursday now, not just Sundays, Thursdays too. She'd become more than a neighbor. She was family, the kind you choose, the kind who shows up. We'd sit at her kitchen table, Charlie the dog at our feet, and she'd tell me about her week, and I'd tell her about mine. Last month, she told me about her daughter, the one who'd tried something similar with her own mother 5 years ago, Helen's mother, the grandmother scam. "We don't talk anymore," Helen had said. "My daughter. I tried for 2 years to repair it, but she never apologized, never acknowledged what she did. So I stopped trying. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Some relationships aren't worth saving." She'd looked at me directly. "You're allowed to protect yourself, Margaret, even from family, especially from family." I'd nodded, understood. We were both members of a club nobody wants to join, but at least we weren't alone in it. Sarah Mitchell called me a few weeks after the mediation, not about the case, just to check in. "How are you doing?" she'd asked. I'd told her I was fine, managing. She'd paused, then said, "I'm representing another senior in a similar case. Son tried to sell her condo while she was in rehab for a hip replacement. She's 81, terrified, doesn't know what to do. Would you be willing to talk to her? Just let her know she's not crazy, that this happens, that she can fight back." I'd said yes, met with the woman, Dorothy her name was, told her my story, gave her Sarah's number, told her to document everything. 6 weeks later, Dorothy called to tell me she'd won her case. Her son had backed down when he realized she had a lawyer and wasn't going to be silent. Sarah was starting a free legal clinic for seniors now, one Saturday a month at the public library. Elder law basics, wills, powers of attorney, advanced directives, financial exploitation prevention. She'd asked if I'd volunteer, help with intake forms, talk to people who came in with questions. I'd agreed. First clinic was last weekend. 12 seniors showed up. 3 of them were dealing with situations like mine. I told them, "You're not alone. You're not imagining it, and you can fight back." Emma called me every week, sometimes twice. We'd talk for an hour, about school, about colleges, about boys, about life. Last Sunday, we met for lunch. Just the 2 of us. Neutral location, technically supervised. Helen came along, sat at a table across the restaurant, gave us space, but was there per the court order. Emma hugged me when I arrived, held on tight. "Grandma, I'm so sorry," she'd said. "I didn't know. I should have known. I should have asked you what was happening instead of just believing Dad." "You were protecting your father," I'd told her. "That's not wrong. You love him. You should love him. But Emma, if something ever feels wrong, you can ask. You can question. Loving someone doesn't mean accepting everything they do." She'd nodded, then told me she'd changed her major. She was applying to colleges for social work now, not business like David had wanted, social work. "Because of you," she'd said, "because you showed me what it looks like to stand up for yourself, to set boundaries, to not let people, even people you love, take advantage of you. I want to help people like that, people who don't know they have rights, who don't know they can say no." I'd gotten teary, tried not to show it. "You're going to be wonderful at that," I'd said. Before we left, Emma had pulled out her phone, shown me her college essay. The prompt was about someone who'd inspired her. She'd written about me, about the cruise, the discovery, the fight, about watching her grandmother refuse to be silent. "You're my hero," she'd said. "I hope you know that." I did now. David and I didn't talk. The court order required a 6-month no-contact period except for supervised visits with the grandchildren. We were 3 months in, 3 more to go. But last week, a letter arrived. David's handwriting on the envelope. I'd almost thrown it away, but I'd opened it. Mom, I know 3 months of payments doesn't make up for what I did. I know sorry isn't enough. My therapist says I have to own it. I stole from you. I tried to control you. I convinced myself it was love, but it was fear. Fear of losing our house, fear of you getting hurt, fear of not being enough. I'm working on it. Thank you for giving me the chance to make it right. I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful. David. I'd read his letter 3 times. Then I'd called him, not to forgive, not yet, just to acknowledge. David, I'd said, thank you for being honest. Keep going to therapy, keep making payments, and know that I love you. But I'm also protecting myself. Both things are true. He'd cried. I didn't. I'd cried enough. Now I was just steady, clear. That felt better than forgiveness. That felt like strength. I'd updated my will, created a trust for Emma and Jake, money set aside for college, for their futures that their parents couldn't touch. Established advance directives. If I ever became truly incapacitated, Sarah Mitchell had medical power of attorney. Helen had backup. I'd specified in writing, no memory care facility unless I choose it myself. No guardianship without my explicit consent documented by an independent physician. No sale of my property without my signature witnessed by my attorney. I made it impossible for anyone to do to me what David had tried to do. I'd also started a small scholarship fund, $2,000 a year to a graduating senior from Riverside Elementary studying education or social work, in memory of Robert, in honor of second chances. The first scholarship would be awarded this spring. Last weekend, I'd planted new roses in the garden. The old ones had needed replacing for years. I'd finally done it. Chose varieties called New Dawn and Peace. Seemed appropriate. Helen had helped me dig the holes, laughing as we got dirt under our fingernails. We'd planted 6 bushes. They'd bloom next summer. I'd also framed something unexpected, that one-way cruise ticket. Put it in my study, on the wall next to my teaching certificates. A reminder, not of what David had done, but of what I'd done. I'd seen the trap. I'd documented the evidence. I'd fought back. I'd won. That ticket wasn't evidence of my confusion. It was proof of my clarity. The photo album was still on my nightstand. I'd added new photos. Emma at her prom, Jake at his baseball game, a selfie Helen and I had taken in her garden, pictures of my book club friends, my volunteer group at the library, the life I was still living, the life nobody had taken from me. Some days I still couldn't believe it had happened. My son, my home, that cruise. But I was here. I was standing. I was independent. And nobody, not even family, would take that from me again. 6 months after I got off that cruise ship, I'm sitting on my back porch with my morning coffee. Same blue mug, same cardinals at the feeder, same tomato plants, though these are the fall crop now. The house behind me is mine. The keys in my purse are mine. The decisions I make every day, what to eat, where to go, who to see, how to spend my money, they're mine. I'm 72 years old. I live alone. I manage my own life. And nobody gets to change that unless I decide they can. David and I talk now. Not often. Once a month, maybe. Supervised visits ended last month. The court reviewed the case, saw he was making payments, attending therapy, respecting boundaries, and lifted the restriction. Emma and Jake come over on Sundays sometimes. We make pancakes, play games, watch movies, normal grandma things. David drops them off, picks them up. We're polite. Sometimes we talk about the weather, about the kids' activities, about nothing important. We don't talk about the cruise. We don't talk about the guardianship petition. We don't talk about what he did. Maybe someday we will. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have that conversation without my attorney present. But not yet. I still love him. He's still my son. But trust isn't something you get back just by apologizing. Trust is something you rebuild with time, with consistency, with changed behavior. We're working on it. That's all I can say. The legal clinic I volunteer at has served 43 seniors in the past 3 months. 43 people walk through that library door on a Saturday morning, most of them scared, many of them ashamed, all of them needing help. We've helped 12 people file restraining orders against family members. We've helped 7 people remove adult children from their bank accounts. We've helped 4 people escape attempted guardianships. We've helped 20 people update their wills and powers of attorney to protect themselves. Sarah runs the legal side. I handle the intake forms, make the coffee, and sit with people while they tell their stories. Sometimes I tell mine. My son tried to sell my house while I was on a cruise, I'll say. But I caught him. I documented everything. I fought back, and I won. You can too. Every single person who's walked through that door has thanked me. Most of them cry. All of them leave with more hope than they came in with. That matters. Helen still waters my plants when I travel, but now I travel because I choose to, not because someone books me a one-way ticket. Last month I went to visit Emma at college. My choice, my timing, my return flight that I booked myself. Helen had my spare key, but this time I knew exactly who had it and why. She texted me pictures of my tomatoes every day I was gone, sent me a photo of the cardinals at the feeder, checked my mailbox. When I got home, she'd left fresh flowers on my kitchen table and a note. Welcome home, missed you, H. That's what family looks like, the kind you choose. The kind that shows up without taking over. Someone at book club asked me last month, Margaret, are you happy? I thought about it, really thought about it, and I realized, yes. Not because everything's perfect. It's not. I have a son who betrayed me. I lost $47,000 that I'll get back slowly, over 3 years, if David keeps making payments. I have anxiety sometimes. My blood pressure medication reminds me every morning that stress has a cost. But I'm happy, because everything's mine. My choices, my consequences, my life. I wake up every morning in my own house, make my own coffee, decide my own schedule. Nobody tells me what to do. Nobody makes decisions for me. Nobody tries to convince me I'm too old, too confused, too much of a burden. I'm just Margaret, 72, living alone, managing fine. If you're listening to this and you recognize your own story in mine, I want you to know. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If someone, even someone you love, especially someone you love, is pressuring you to sign papers you don't understand, pressuring you to give up control, pressuring you to make decisions you're not comfortable with, stop. Ask questions. Get a second opinion. Talk to your doctor, your financial advisor, a lawyer, a friend. Document everything. Keep copies of everything. Email yourself evidence. Save texts. Print bank statements. If you don't have a trusted person in your life, find one. Join a senior center. Go to a legal clinic. Call Adult Protective Services. Ask for help. It's not weakness to ask for help. It's not paranoia to protect yourself. And it's not betraying your family to set boundaries. You have rights. You have a voice. Use it. Some days I still can't believe it happened. My son, my home, that cruise, but I'm here. I'm standing. I'm independent. And nobody, not even family, will take that from me again. The one-way ticket that was supposed to be evidence of my confusion became proof of my clarity. The house they tried to sell is still mine. The keys I instinctively packed are still in my purse. The photo album on my nightstand has new pictures now, not just the past, but the present. The garden is blooming. The coffee tastes the same. The cardinals come back every morning, and every day is mine.